Wife just gave birth finds husband cheating, she chooses divorce, he regrets it. The room was silent except for the soft cries of the newborn swaddled gently in her arms. His tiny fingers curling around her thumb as she stared into his delicate face, exhausted but overflowing with a love she'd never known before. Her heart was tender, open, vulnerable, believing that the man she shared her life with would walk in with flowers, whisper how proud he was of her strength, kiss her forehead, and hold their child like he was the greatest gift. But hours passed. The hospital lights dimmed. She called once, twice, no answer. Her gut twisted. Still wearing the gown spotted with the evidence of childbirth, she asked the nurse to watch the baby for just a moment and stepped out into the corridor. A quick search of his location confirmed her fear. He wasn't at home. A wave of confusion and betrayal washed over her as she followed the address. Her body still aching from labor, she forced herself into a cab and arrived at the location. A hotel. Her heartbeat thundered as she entered the lobby, every step a blow to her fading hope. She took the elevator up, eyes stinging with tears, and what she saw when the door creaked open nearly made her collapse. There he was, shirtless, flushed, tangled in sheets with another woman. The man who had whispered love into her ears as she screamed through labor just a day ago was now whispering lies into someone else's. Her scream never left her throat. Instead, silence wrapped her like a vice. He froze, horror crawling over his face as he registered her presence. But the damage was irreversible. She didn't speak. She turned around with quiet dignity, though her legs trembled beneath her, though her insides felt like they were bleeding worse than her body had hours ago. Her heart shattered silently, but her tears remained locked behind her lashes. Back at the hospital, she held her baby tighter, her lips trembling against his tiny head as she whispered apologies he couldn't understand. By the next morning, she had already filed for divorce, her decision as sharp and swift as the betrayal had been. The man who once used to kiss her shoulders under moonlight, who used to trace his fingers gently down her spine while whispering promises of forever, now sat alone in their once shared apartment, staring at the emptiness he had created. He tried calling again and again, but she didn't answer. Her silence screamed louder than any words. The memory of her moans under his breath, the softness of her skin as she arched into his body, the passion of their late-night sessions where sexy talking became hot touching, and love turned to fire. Those memories haunted him. But she had been more than that. She had been his world, his safe place, the woman who kissed his scars and loved his flaws, who brought life into the world while he gave death to their relationship. Days passed. Then weeks. The divorce went through quickly, uncontested by her. She moved in with her sister for support, but she carried her pain alone, crying in the shower, crying when the baby cried, crying when no one could see. Yet through it all, she remained strong, determined not to break. He watched from afar, regret clinging to him like a noose tightening with each passing day. He saw photos of her posted by mutual friends, tired but glowing, the baby in her arms, her smile returning slowly. That smile used to be his reward after every kiss, every tender touch. Now it was a reminder of what he had destroyed. Nights became torture. He'd close his eyes and remember the way her body would press against his in the dark, how her breath would hitch when he kissed the curve of her neck, how her hands would explore him with a hunger that wasn't just lust, but love. She had touched him like he was her world. And he had betrayed her at her most vulnerable. The woman he had cheated with vanished after the scandal, leaving nothing but emptiness in her place. He found himself scrolling through old texts where she would talk dirty just to make him blush, sending little voice notes with hot talking that used to drive him insane. Now, those messages were relics of a paradise lost. Meanwhile, she tried to move on, burying herself in motherhood, therapy, and soft-spoken nights alone on the couch. Her body still remembered him, his touch, his scent, but her heart had learned to despise him. And yet, there were moments when she'd lie in bed late at night, her fingers grazing her thighs in the dark, recalling the way he used to whisper filth into her ears before making her body sing. She hated herself for missing that part of him, because that part of him came with betrayal now. Time passed slowly, and with each new day, she grew stronger. Her heart, once broken beyond repair, began to heal, not because she forgot the pain, but because she learned to live beyond it. She started taking walks again, wearing the lipstick he used to love but now wore for herself, letting her hair down not to seduce but to feel free. She began to smile at strangers, talk to new people, even flirt gently with the idea of letting someone else in, though her walls stood tall. Still, there were nights when the loneliness struck like a lightning bolt, when she would hold a pillow tight and weep quietly, remembering the heat of their bodies tangled together. How his lips used to press to the inside of her thigh before working their way up. How his voice used to dip into that dangerous tone when he wanted her. Her body still craved things her heart now hated. Meanwhile, he drowned in remorse. He drank, he stopped working, he stared at her photos, videos of the baby, desperate to turn back time. He sent messages begging for one more chance. He sent old voice notes of him whispering dirty things to her, hoping the echo of what they once had would pull her back. But she had blocked him from every app. His pain was now his own prison, and the fire he had once lit in her had turned to cold stone. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to shout. She simply erased him. Yet he couldn't erase her. Then one day she received a package. No return label, just a single baby blue box tied in white silk. Inside was a necklace, a locket with their son's photo on one side, and on the other, a tiny piece of paper folded so small it fit inside the metal heart. She hesitated, then opened it. The note said, "The day I lost you, I lost everything I ever was. I live with that every second." She stared at it for a long time. Her fingers trembled, not because of the words, but because she no longer felt anything when she read them. The wound had become a scar. That night, she stood by the window watching the moonlight dance on her skin. She remembered the way he used to kiss her there, how he'd push her hair back, whisper how much he wanted her, how sexy her voice sounded when she moaned. She remembered the slow kisses, the sexy touching that would turn into something hotter, more desperate, how he'd pin her wrists and tease her till she begged. She remembered every detail, every breath. And then she remembered the hotel, the betrayal, and her choice. That was what changed everything. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that she had already known he was cheating before she gave birth. She had found the messages, the flirty texts, the hot talking with someone else while she lay in bed swollen with his child. But she waited. She wanted to see if he'd be man enough to stop. He wasn't. She gave him the chance to end it quietly. He didn't. So the moment he walked out that night to get dinner, she followed him in secret, her belly still sore, knowing what she'd find. The scene at the hotel had been no surprise. Her silence that night wasn't shock. It was confirmation. And the real twist. She had already prepared the divorce papers before even entering labor. Her signature had dried long before her contractions started. She just needed one last reason to make it final. He had given it to her on a silver platter. She didn't just walk away. She walked away knowing she'd never let him touch her again. Never let him hear her moan again. Never let his hands explore the places only he had known. That was her revenge. Not drama. Not destruction. Just absence. She vanished from his world like a ghost that once loved him deeply, and then stopped. The end.